Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's town hall. My name is Gary Dukes, and I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs, and I'm going to serve as your moderator today. We have a lot of people on our connection today to give you information about our plans for the fall in terms of how the classes will operate and other activities on campus, and so that's how we'll spend a little bit of our time today, and then also have an opportunity for all of you to ask questions. Before we get started, we have a welcome from our President, Rex Fuller, and so I'll turn it over to President Fuller.
Thank you, Gary, and welcome to our conversation around reopening Oregon and Western Oregon University. I'm excited by the information that we presented to you by a number of our folks who have been involved in planning for this event. A number of us have been meeting off and on almost weekly since May around the changing conditions that have led to this presentation today. We've been guided by a number of key factors. One is the guidance from both the Higher Ed Coordinating Commission and the Oregon Health Authority on guidance for the conduct in-person instruction in residential and research activities at Oregon's colleges and universities. This led to the development of a plan that was actually reviewed and approved by our Board of Trustees on August 19th. In following the approval of that plan, we've moved to a point of announcing the decision that we're discussing today related to the operation of the university starting here in just a few weeks as we enter the fall term. So again, I want to welcome you, encourage you to ask questions. There's a portal to do that, and we have a number of experts really on the panel that will help us get through any questions you might have beyond the questions that are addressed in the slides. So I want to welcome you and look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Fuller. One of the individuals who's also been a part of our reopening plans is our student body president, NJ Johnson. And so, NJ, I'd like to also have you welcome our group today, if you would.
Thank you, Dr. Duke. Certainly. Hello, everyone. My name is NJ Johnson. I'm currently serving as the student body president at Western Oregon University. I just want to say thank you for coming to this town hall. I think right now it's extremely critical that we all connect. We have our concerns heard, we have our questions answered, and we communicate our plans. Speaking of plans, we did a lot of work to open this university in a safe way originally, but as the date came closer, we realized that that wasn't going to be the safest thing for our campus community. But that being said, there are still plenty of services that students are relying on, both in an employment sense and just as a resource for their success as a student on campus. So through this town hall, we're going to show you what our university campus will look like and have an option to answer questions. If you have any, you can email myself. I'll be the one curating questions at the end. And that email is aswoupresident@wou.edu. You can just email your questions to me, and then we'll answer them when we come to that segment. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, NJ. And we'll also have a slide up throughout our presentation that will give you that same email address so that you can address your questions out to NJ. So the first thing we want to talk to you a little bit about is our academic programs for September. And so I will turn it over to our provost, Dr. Rob Winningham.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Dukes. So if we could see the slides now. The one thing I wanted to communicate are we have 95% of our courses are now going to be delivered online. The 5% of our courses, possibly a little less, that are going to be delivered in person are for courses that we cannot meet the course goals or the program outcomes. And there's really kind of three departments that we've had struggled with in that regard. One is for biology. We will have some biology labs that are taught in person, even though the course section is taught online. We'll also have some dance courses that are taught in person and music courses. We'll be following the Oregon Health Authority guidelines, the Higher Education Coordinating Commission's guidelines, OSHA guidelines, as well as the Centers for Disease Control guidelines when we offer these in-person instructional opportunities. With a minimum of 6 feet of space, we often will have plexiglass barriers up, And in the case of some of the music courses where they're singing or wind instruments, we're actually going to have people spread 12 feet apart. And these courses are actually going to take place in the stadium. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, but there is a covered area where these courses are going to be delivered. So a lot of work has gone into that. Our courses are going to be primarily online synchronous. So all of the courses that were scheduled to be taught in person were transitioned to online synchronous. Now what that means is there are set meeting times for the courses. So about half of our courses were scheduled to be in person before. And so if a course was scheduled to meet Monday, Wednesday, 10 to 12, now that time has been reserved for the online course. That's what it means to be synchronous. Now, the faculty may choose to use that time. They may reassign that time. The faculty have quite a bit of flexibility how they do that. But this is a really nice feature of our online courses because from the surveys we did in the spring with our own students and surveys that other universities have done around the country since the pandemic began, we found that many students do better if they have a regular meeting time to touch base with their faculty, in real time, touch base with their fellow students in real time. In addition, our faculty members now all have access to Zoom and numerous tools that enhance the learning environment. I've been involved in some of these meetings and it's great. You'll be sent to a breakout room with just part of the group. You can have some discussions. You can write on virtual whiteboards and then the instructor can bring you back to the larger group. So a lot of nice features there. Next slide, please. Unlike spring term, when we really were in an emergency situation, I don't know if you all recall, but we only had a week or two to transition all of our in-person courses to be remote or online. Unlike that, the faculty now have had a lot of time to prepare, and even if they were planning for an in-person, which we aren't generally doing this fall term, many of them were getting ready, and many more courses were actually planned to be online. Some of them are actually planned to be online asynchronous, so there's no meeting times, and that's how they'll continue. And some had been planned to be online synchronous, and then we transitioned all of the other ones over, as I discussed. So the faculty have spent a lot of time on this. We've offered them many professional development opportunities. That's what faculty have been doing over the summer to enhance the quality of their online courses and those educational activities. Now, for the class meetings that will happen in person, we will be taking attendance in order to help contact tracing efforts. And that we weren't going to talk about this in this presentation per se, but I'm really proud of our community health students and some of their epidemiology professors. They have taken over contact tracing responsibilities working in concert with Polk County Health. So the contact tracing done for the entire county is happening right out of Western. And so we'll be quick if we have an outbreak on our own campus. And I can see they're doing a great job meeting the metrics. I saw in the past week, they reached 100% of the people that they needed to reach, which was a huge goal. Next slide, please. So students can view all courses and their course modalities, be it online synchronous, online asynchronous, hybrid, or in-person. I've been told at the end of the day, if you go to real-time class availability, I think that's where most students look up their courses to see what is open for the next term. We're transitioning those all over. I just spoke with the university registrar, and she said all of those courses will be transitioned by the end of today. It was a heavy lift. They had to enroll and unenroll every student, but they're going to have everybody that had been enrolled in an in-person course now enrolled in an online synchronous. As we had decided before, all final exams will be done online or remotely, and students who need to check out a computer, possibly a tablet, or even a data hotspot can get more information about how to do so at the library's website, the library.wou.edu/coronavirus. And you get information there. I'm not sure that we actually even checked out all of our computers and tablets last spring. So we have a couple of hundred to check out if students are in need. And then we have a limited number of data hotspots. And there's going to be a system so we can hand those out to students that have a demonstrated financial need. It is expensive for the university to buy those hotspots. I believe we have unlimited data on those hotspots, so it's not cheap, but it's important for students to be able to access the course materials, so we are working with students on that. Next slide, please. So as most all of the other Oregon public universities have decided quite a while ago, we will not be returning back for any in-person instruction after Wednesday, November 25th. That's the day before Thanksgiving. We don't want students to go back home, interact with their family and community, then come back necessarily. Now, students are welcome to stay on campus if they're in housing, certainly, but we had made the decision, as all other Oregon public universities did, to not have in-person instruction after November 25th. So that will continue for our limited number of in-person courses. Next slide, please. So now I would like to hand it over to Nikki Waite. She's the Director of Student Success and Advising, and she's going to talk about registering for courses and getting advice from our professional advisors. Nikki?
Right. Thank you, Dr. Winningham. So just a few helpful information, and we can stay on the slide for the next couple of slides. As Dr. Winningham mentioned, registration is getting updated to show those course modality changes to the online classes. But as we're getting close to the start of fall term, we've got about 4 weeks before the term begins. And so just reminding students that registration is still open with the change to moving to more remote classes. If that is something you need to update in terms of adding more classes or adjusting what type of online classes you're taking, registration is still open for you to make changes, add classes, to make whatever changes you need to prepare for fall term. If you're unfamiliar with the registration process, there's some instruction listed on the screen. You log into the WOU portal. Our WOLF Web student information system houses all of our registration and schedules, and you can use the schedule planner tool that generates potential schedules for you. And in that tool, you'll be able to see the dates and times, whether the class is online synchronous, online asynchronous. And as Dr. Winningham mentioned, that will be updated so you can see the classes that have scheduled meeting times. The biggest recommendation with registering for classes is if you need to make changes or updates, we just recommend you do so soon so you can prepare what you'll need in terms of technology, textbooks. It also will help your faculty have an updated course roster. So as they start reaching out to you before the term starts, they know who all is in their class. And then if you're trying to figure out best classes to take and take opportunities to figure out what best classes, you can utilize the University Degree Track system, which is our degree checklist tool. It's also located in the WOU portal. It's at the top of the page with an icon that looks like the one on the screen with some paw prints. And you can review that tool to see how your current classes are applying and if you need to make changes, where you might find the best benefit towards fitting in additional classes. So just a couple tricks and tips with registering and encouragements to make changes you need to and get registered soon so you're prepared for fall term, and we can help you be ready for those classes. Next slide, please. And then also just knowing advisors will be available to you throughout fall term. As NJ mentioned, we recognize that even though classes are remote, that does not mean that you are on your own to succeed in these classes. Every student at Western is assigned an advisor that you will meet with every term. If you're a new student coming in this fall, you will be assigned an advisor typically once the term begins so that they have an idea of who is coming and what area you are in. Contact information for all the various departments is available on our website, wou.edu/advising, and then you can click on the advisor contact button. Many of our advisors that you'll be assigned in your major are actually faculty, and so you might have them teach your classes as well, and you might have them in multiple capacities. And so as we get closer to fall term and throughout the fall term, your advisors will be available to answer questions, talk about how things are going. So just know that that is a resource. You can also add the advisor channel in the WOU portal once the term begins, and those advisors are assigned to see your assigned, not only who your assigned advisor is, but have quick access to their contact information. Next slide, please. In addition to your major advisor, we also have several different offices that provide advising support to students, both now and through fall term. And so we have the Student Success and Advising Office, the Student Enrichment Program, Multicultural Student Services and Programs, the latter, the SEP and MSSE programs. You're assigned an advisor in one of those two programs if you are admitted to or apply to one of those programs. And then the Student Success and Advising Office, we provide general advising support to all students, but we also provide success strategy types appointments, tutoring, similar services are offered by SEP and MSSP to those in those programs. We are offering remote appointments throughout fall term, and so to access those, you can schedule an appointment anytime online through the Wolf Connection system, which is our student success network tool. You can log into the WOU portal, select the WCX icon, and then click on Get Support. And just know that even with going remote, we do not expect you to do this alone. We are here to support you, to answer questions, to help you figure out what's the best plan for you. So we encourage you to connect with your advisor often and regularly, especially in this virtual environment, reaching out via email, connecting via Zoom or phone. We want to make sure you still have all the connections you need and all the resources to be successful. So these are all people that are here for you wherever you are as we move into a remote term for the fall. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Winningham or for further questions.
I think it's going back to me. This is Gary. So a couple things I forgot to mention as we started the presentation is that we are planning to have a recording available as well as the slides available online for individuals to come back to. So if there's things in the slides that you didn't have a chance to get written down or whatever the case may be, there should be that opportunity afterwards to also access that information. Again, if you have questions, here's the email address to send those questions to, and we'll continue on with our presentation. Next up, we have our director of our Student Health and Counseling Center to talk a little bit about the safety protocols we'll have on campus for the fall. Beth?
I'm done around safety on campus, safety for students returning back to campus, and our expectations for the students. And then I'm going to end with talking about Student Health and Counseling Center, the services that we're offering, and how those can be accessed. So the first thing that's been mentioned a time or two already is that there have been many meetings, a large group of people preparing for students to return to campus. We really miss the students. And a lot of thought has been put into this. One thing that Western has just right out of the gate that is great is our location. We have a rural location and our smaller campus. The things that we already have, even before COVID, lend us to be successful in resuming classes in the fall. We have small classrooms, small classroom sizes that can be reconfigured to have safe distancing and whatever needs to be done for those that are in person to resume safely. And then we have custodial services through facilities that have always done a great job cleaning and keeping the campus clean and safe and germ-free, and those efforts have been heightened. So from the get-go, we're in a good position. Then on top of that, we've done additional things just to ensure campus safety. Next slide.
Just don't let me move.
Oh, I'll just keep talking. That's all right. So health and safety is our top priority. Decisions are not made lightly. Like I said, large groups of for the reopening committee, several subcommittees meeting regularly, weekly, some bi-weekly. So in that vein of safety, face coverings will be required on campus. The campus has a face covering policy that if you're not in your own space alone, face coverings are required. We're also going to have over 150 hand sanitizing stations on campus. Additional cleaning and disinfecting will take place. And we're reducing the capacity of in-person experiences so that everyone does have freedom of movement and to ensure safety and not people being in your space. Next slide. We also, at the Student Health and Counseling Center, and I'll talk more about this later, we do have the ability to test for COVID-19 on campus. Again, I'll talk more specifically about that in a bit. Other things that we've done, managing the entrances and exits of buildings to maximize physical distancing. And we have additional housing space if students need to self-isolate. Next slide. All right, so I've mentioned some specific things, but I want to talk more broadly about what we're doing and what our expectations are for campus and for the students. It's been mentioned that we're following numerous guidelines. So the Center for Disease Control and the Oregon Health Authority guidelines are some that we follow very closely in student health. And the best practices. What is the best practice? What is the evidence that it is the best practice? And we want to follow those. There are some things that you should be doing regardless of where you are, whether you're coming to school or staying home, going to the grocery store. So some of those things include the self-check. So checking yourself, do you feel well? Are you running a fever? Do you have a cough or a sore throat? Symptoms, right? Checking for symptoms. And if you have symptoms, we want you to stay put. Stay in your residence hall room. Don't go to work. Don't go out to class, and don't socialize with others. So staying home and self-isolating when it's appropriate. Also, I mentioned the mask policy on campus. We're going to expect students to wear masks. Again, that's something that you should be doing anyway, as well as social distancing and proper hygiene. So washing hands regularly. I do it before I go into a store and immediately after I go to the store. I even sanitize my phone and my credit card, so you just can't be too hypervigilant. So doing those things, regardless of where you are, they should be doing them, and those will be some expectations here on campus. Some other precautions that the campus is going to do for you, we're going to have symptom tracking available through housing and student health and counseling. We're working on that soon and quickly so that you can do your self-monitoring through a check-in process on your portal. So that's in the works. Also, there are quarantine rooms available if someone does test positive and we need to quarantine someone so that you'll be taken care of. And there are things in place to have students' needs taken care of if that is the case, so that they're not left with no resources. So all of that has been talked about and considered and will be taken care of. So other things that the campus is doing, that WOU is doing, are signage. Signs everywhere. Our marketing department's done a great job creating signs for just about everything you can think of. And if something comes up that we haven't thought of, then they'll do that too. So that includes areas that are high-density areas. There's signage in those buildings, signs to wear masks before entering buildings, to assist in social distancing. There's some cute little paw prints that some buildings are using for the 6 feet measurement on the floor. I have some ordered, so I'm looking forward to that. Signage, there's no visitors on campus. So if you don't have campus business, the buildings are not going to be open just to the general public. So we're taking it very seriously. We're putting things in place to protect the students and to protect our employees, of course. And we want to maintain healthy environments. So some things we're doing around protecting or maintaining healthy environments. Cleaning and disinfecting, again, we've been doing it. We've upped the game and are doing it intentionally and seriously and thoroughly, making sure that the facilities has the supplies that they need. And we're modifying layouts of buildings, so that might be moving chairs around so that they're not next to each other. Again, the entrances and exits of buildings are being altered. Anything we can do and put in place that protects everyone involved, so we can create that healthy and safe environment for our campus. Some other things are physical barriers. So plexiglass barriers in front of front office staff that protects both the front office staff and the students who are communicating with them. So things like that we're doing. And let's see, if there are any things that come up, we address that and take care of that and figure out how we can implement it so that we do have a safe environment. So like this meeting it's done on the computer. Our meetings are still done that way. So even within the campus, within my department, with the campus as a whole, meetings are done through Zoom or WebEx or some other means, so that we ensure physical distancing as well. And I think I mentioned the sanitizer stations on campus. That's a big thing. So they're going to be everywhere, so that you can always sanitize up. We're going to encourage, again, this is also something you should be doing regardless, but encouraging hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette. And that is sneezing into your arm, covering your mouth when you cough, throwing the tissue away immediately, washing your hands or using sanitizer immediately. Those safety things, the things that we can do, that we should be doing, that we're going to encourage and expect people to follow. Another thing on maintaining a healthy environment, the business office has done a great job at procuring equipment so that we know that we're going to be able to keep students safe and employees safe and have a clean and safe environment. So we've got the supplies that we need, and they're doing a good job at getting those things for us and keeping up with those orders. Also, wellness stations is something that we're going to do, and that's going to be in a few locations where you can have your temperature taken, or you can take it yourself. There'll be health education materials, face masks available, and of course hand sanitizer. Next slide. Student Health and Counseling Center. So my favorite thing to talk about. So the Student Health and Counseling Center is going to be open in the fall term, and we're going to continue to offer counseling and medical services. So I want to talk about the counseling first. That's going to be telecounseling, and we use a platform for that when you sign up for counseling, you'll be given that information on how to access our counselor. So that's done remotely, so you can do it from your room, of course in a confidential space. And until things are safe enough to where we can start doing in-person, we're going to continue the telecounseling module. Of course, I'm looking at ways we can start implementing some in-person counseling services and how we can do that safely. And I have some ideas about that because, man, we really do miss having the students in the building and having that interaction. Medical services are going to be a combination. You can come in the office for office visits, and we're having it differentiated between well visits in the morning and then sick visits in the afternoon, so that there's no cross-contamination if someone is sick and coming in. It will be important that you call ahead to make that appointment. You'll be triaged before coming in. It is mandatory that students coming in the building wear a face mask, for their appointment. I mentioned the COVID testing. So we do have COVID testing available. And at this time, the tests are used for students that are exhibiting symptoms or have been exposed to someone who is confirmed as a positive case. So we'll have a special area set up for that. So if someone suspects that they might have COVID or have the symptoms related to that, they can call and be triaged, and the medical provider will set up an appointment to meet you for that test. And I believe we're going to do the same for flu symptoms too. Flu season's coming up, and we just want to maintain safe protocols for everyone involved. So those are the things that we have in place for student health and counseling. Email your questions. I'm glad to answer any questions anybody might have about our services, about other safety measures that the campus is doing or you think should be doing. We're open to feedback, and we want to know what we can do to make people feel comfortable on campus. Next slide. So that was the end of mine. So there you go. You have it, the safety components that Western has been doing to prepare for your coming onto campus and to taking classes and services around the Student Health and Counseling Center. And we look very forward to having you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Next, we want to talk to you a little bit about the plans we have in place for our activities and events and services that will be happening on campus. So I first am going to turn it over to Patrick Mosier, who's the Director of Student Engagement.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrick Moser. I'm an Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs in the area of student engagement. And I'm going to share some pieces of information about the Warner University Center, clubs and organizations, and events and activities. So first of all, for the Warner University Center, we're anticipating some limited building hours based on resources. And so at this point, we are planning on being open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so what you can access when you are utilizing the University Center is our student engagement information desk will be open. It'll be a great place for you to kind of have a one-stop shop if you have questions, to go to that space, and there will be a student staffing that desk and helping you. Also, that's where you get your student IDs. If you are arriving to campus for the first time and haven't done that virtually, you can come to the desk, or you can also do that virtually by contacting our desk. Additionally, the Wolf Store is located in the University Center, and they will be maintaining the same hours as the building, so 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Also, we have a number of student support offices within the building as well that you'll be able to access. So our office, student engagement, multicultural student services and programs, service learning and career development, Veterans Resource Center, Abby's House, ASWU, and then the Vice President of Student Affairs office is located in our building as well. On the next slide, you will see that we also have a computer lab in our building. And the computer lab is socially distanced, so there are some stations that are open and other stations that are not, but that's clearly marked. We also have general study space throughout the building that students will be able to access and utilize that when the building is open. We also have reservable rooms for meetings and for studying. So clubs and organizations, departments will be able to reserve spaces within the building, and also, there's reservable study spaces that students can, in small groups, utilize. And once again, as Beth had mentioned about the safety precautions that we'll be taking, you will need to be wearing a face covering when you are in the building. And we also have set up the entire building to be physically distanced so that we can maintain those safety standards throughout the building. All right. So, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about clubs and organizations. There should be a slide that talks about that on the next one, and this is the student engagement staff will be working in conjunction with ASWU, the Associated Students of Western Oregon University, to support club and organizations for community building and activities. And one of the things that if you're new to campus and you're trying to figure out where clubs and organizations, where you can find that information about what clubs and organizations we have. For our returning students, they know, but I want to share with our new students that we have a platform called WOU Engage. It is a software program that we use for clubs, organizations, and departments to organize their members and promote their events on. So if you haven't found out where to access that platform yet, all students have access through their portal. If you're a new student and haven't seen it yet, it's on the portal page. And it's an icon that's located on the top navigation bar. It is a black and green icon labeled Engage. You just click on that icon and it will take you directly into the application. If it's your first time logging in, there is a few questions that you'll be asked to answer. But after you've answered those, you'll get direct access into that platform whenever you log in. A couple things on clubs and organizations. By going to WOU Engage, you can contact different clubs and learn about their events. Additionally, we're going to be having a virtual clubs and orgs fair September 14th through 18th on WOU Engage. So there's actually already a posting on the calendar for that event. So if you want to check out the details once you log in, please check that out. We are encouraging all of our clubs and organizations to keep their WOU Engage or the WOU Engage pages updated with their meetings and events details. All clubs and organizations are responsible for taking care of that on their own. But if you see something missing, you can definitely reach out to them through that platform to get some details. We're encouraging clubs and organizations to have virtual and/or virtual access to club activities. They may also choose to do some in-person events, and that will be allowed as well, along with the other items that I mentioned that were available in the building. We have the computer lab, which is physically distanced, and there will be some of the stations that will be available and others that are closed off, just so that for safety reasons. We also have a general study space throughout the building that is physically distanced as well. We have reservable rooms for meetings and studying. Students can check out study rooms to study in small groups and reserve that space, and then clubs, organizations, and departments can reserve meeting spaces. So when utilizing the Warren University Center, like Beth had mentioned earlier, we expected that students, staff, and faculty are wearing face coverings and utilizing the building in the way that it's already been set up for physical distancing. All right, on the next slide, we have some information on clubs and organizations. Student engagement will be working in conjunction with ASWU, the Associated Students of Western Oregon University, to support club and organization community building and activities. Clubs and organizations are located for new students if you've never tried to explore where our clubs are, and can be contacted through our WOU Engagement platform, which is a software program we use for clubs, organizations, and departments to organize their members and promote their events on. So all WO students have access through their portal. So if you've never been there before, you can find the WOU Engage icon on the top navigation bar of the WOU portal, and it's a green and black icon labeled Engage. You just click on that icon and it'll take you directly into the application. If it's your first time logging in, there are a few questions that you'll have to be asked. You'll have to answer, and then after that, you'll be able to visit that and go directly into it. One thing that you'll notice, there is an event on the calendar right now. It's a virtual clubs and orgs fair, September 14th through the 18th, and that'll be located virtually on WOU Engage. And so go ahead and check that event out. It'll give you details, and it'll be a great way for you to explore what clubs and organizations we have. You can also reach out to clubs and organizations through the WOU Engage and directly message them and get information about their events and activities. That's because we do encourage, on the next slide, we do encourage all clubs and organizations to keep their WOU Engage page is updated with our meetings and events. If you go to those pages and you feel like something might be missing, you can just message those clubs directly and ask for details. We're encouraging clubs and organizations to have virtual events and or virtual access to clubs and activities, club activities that they might be doing in person, because that will be allowed as well. In indoor and outdoor gatherings, utilizing our most up-to-date in-person, state, and university gathering standards. And then once again, when you're on campus, all meetings and our events must be physically distanced with participants wearing face coverings. I did want to mention on the next slide a bit about our events and activities. Student engagement is going to be currently coordinating with other student affairs areas and also plan to work with the Student Activities Board and to try to provide a selection of virtual and in-person events and activities through fall term. Some examples of events that we could offer include things like trivia, bingo, scavenger hunts, some movie events, potentially some student talent showcases, multiplayer, online board games, outdoor long type games like cornhole. However, we really want your input and on what kind of events that you would like to participate in. And so we have a survey on WOU Engage. So if you, like I said, if you haven't visited there, please go. A survey about fall term activities. And we hope to get student feedback on those activities so that we can make sure that we're doing the things that you would enjoy. Now, once we have identified the events that you're going to be able to offer and the things that you enjoy, there will be multiple ways for you to learn about the details and the dates and the times. So first of all, events and activities will be added to the WOU Engage calendar, so you can always check there. Additionally, Student Engagement sends out a newsletter called WOUFy Weekly that will have all events and activities promoted through that source. And then this year, or this term, we're going to be using a on-campus texting platform that we have in the past we've used for weekend programs, but we're going to be using it to keep students aware of all activities and events, regardless of whether they're on the weekend or not. And so all students are able to subscribe to that, and you can do that by texting WOU WKND to 71441. And so you can subscribe at any time. And like I said, we'll be sending out texts letting folks know what's going to be happening on campus or virtually for you to involve. And there's up on the screen. Just text WOU WKND to 71441. And as always, any events that we do have in person, we will be using our safety precautions, physically distancing, and wearing face coverings. So I know that we just had some technical difficulties, but hopefully you'll have access to these slides, and I hope that I was able to provide you some good information. And I think next I'll hand it over to Rip Horthy.
Thanks, Patrick. Next up, we have the director of our campus recreation, Rip Horsey.
Thank you, Dr. Dukes. I appreciate that. My name is Rip Horsey. I'm the director of campus recreation. In regards to campus recreation, we are actively planning to be open this fall. We are planning for the HWC to be open Monday through Friday, roughly about 2 to 8 p.m. I apologize. We will have a reservation system to balance our patrons level, which has been developed. Students may need to purchase a membership. We will require face coverings, and cleaning expectations will be listed out for our patrons. The climbing wall will be operational, and unfortunately, the aquatic center will be closed. Like last spring, We are planning to continue our virtual programs within the intramural esports and fitness on demand, flex, and Instagram live fitness classes. We're also planning in-person opportunities for intramural sports and fitness classes. We plan to provide guidance and support to our club sport officers to help them engage their members virtually and develop return to play guidelines for safe in-person activities. And lastly, we are planning for the turf field to be opened near the start of fall term. We are looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rip. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Megan Haberman, who is going to talk to us a little bit about our orientation activities. Oops.
No.
Nope, sorry. I'm skipping ahead. My fault. We have Tina Fuchs to talk about housing. Sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Tina Fuchs, and I serve as the Dean of Students and Director of University Housing, and I'm glad to talk with you today about our plans for housing. We have around 800 students that have requested to live on campus this fall with us, and we are delighted to serve those folks in our residence halls. We have some guidance for you in terms of getting ready before you move into our residence halls. We're asking as best as you can to self-quarantine 10 to 14 days before you arrive. If that isn't possible, then we ask at a minimum that you're using your face covering and practicing good hygiene before you come so that you are well when you arrive to campus. We have provided a checklist of items that we suggest that you bring with you. One of the things that we added, among others, to that checklist is your own thermometer. So we encourage you to find your own digital thermometer that you can bring with you along with all the many other items that are on that packing list. And then about 24 hours before you arrive to campus, we're going to ask that you take a self-screening test that will be made available to you either on your portal, in your housing portal, or it will be sent as a link via email. Housing and Student Health and Counseling are working together to create this self-screening test that we want you to take, and that will be required in order for you to access your key when you get to campus. If for some reason when you are getting ready to come to campus and you start to not feel well, maybe show signs of a cough or a fever, we're asking that you delay your arrival to campus. We won't check you into your room if you exhibit symptoms such as a cough or a fever. Next slide. So there are many benefits to living on campus and studying from the on-campus environment. What we have done is we have changed the density of our living environments to create more single rooms for our students, and in fact, the majority of our students who will be living on campus will have their own either residence hall room or bedroom in their apartment. We have limited doubles that are available to our students, and those require two people that will mutually request each other. And many of you already know this because most of you have signed up for your residence hall space already. We have high-speed internet with both wireless and hardwired access, and we have cords available for those who wish to hook in from a hardwire port, but certainly our wireless network is also available. By living on campus, you're closer to the resources that are available and accessible to you here on campus, so it's a benefit to those students who live on campus because these resources are right outside of your residence hall room. We've been working and planning all summer for the best experience that you can have in our dining hall, in our living spaces, really with the thought of managing your safety and comfort and making that the most important aspect of what our plans entail. So know that we are keeping that in mind as we as we develop our plans. Our goal is to give you as much of the traditional college experience as possible. And we know that COVID-19 really limits us in our ability to do everything that you would do if this wasn't a COVID-19 situation. But we're putting a lot of things in place to provide you with an experience that is exceptional and special for your year of living on campus. Next slide. So staying safe on campus, all of us, I think, have talked about safety today, and that's probably at the forefront of our minds in terms of your safety and ensuring that you're safe, our staff is safe, our faculty are safe. We will conduct regular cleaning and sanitization of bathrooms and common areas. We ask that you manage your personal living environment and keep it clean in the best way that you can. We are expecting you to wear face coverings in all of our common areas. By being in your room alone, you don't have to wear a face covering in your room. If you happen to have a guest in your room, then you will be required to wear a face covering. We are implementing a no overnight guest policy simply because we don't want to have folks visiting campus who aren't members of our community. And it's also a way for us to manage situations should we need to do any contact tracing to make sure we know who's living in our communities. We're also going to limit guest access during the day, and we'll have visiting hours at least through fall term, and we'll see how things go. But the guest policy has been changed a little bit to accommodate the need for a more safe environment. We encourage you to practice good hygiene, regular use of hand sanitizer, washing your hands, using your face coverings, abide by physical distancing standards. And we'll have signage up in all of our residence halls that kind of helps guide you in terms of how many people can be in a space, where people can be seated, and how people can interact safely in our residence halls. It's been mentioned a few times today that we will have quarantine or isolation spaces available. So if a student starts to exhibit symptoms of the flu or coronavirus and we need to isolate them, we have residence halls that have self-contained bathrooms that we're not using during the academic year that we will use for isolation purposes. So those spaces are already reserved and we're ready to serve those students who may need them. Next slide. So move-in days. This is kind of unique to us. We usually have one giant move-in day where everyone shows up at once. But this year we have set it up to where we'll have students move in over the course of 4 days, from September 23rd through September 26th. And many of you who have made reservations for housing already know that you are required. There's an appointment required for you to check in to your residence hall. You may bring up to 2 additional people with you to help you. Everyone helping you, including yourself, you all need to be wearing face coverings while you're moving your items into your room. On the day that you move in, we'll have health screening tents set up where you'll have to go through a screening before you get access to your key. That's different from the 24 hours prior to arrival health screening test that you need to take, but this is all a precaution to make sure that we're moving you in safely. Check-in is going to be as contact-free as possible. There will be an exchange of a key, but beyond that, it's going to be managed individually with each student. If you ship items ahead of time, we just ask, one, that you put your name and your residence hall and room number on the package so that we know where to place the package when it arrives. So make sure that we have that detail on the package so that we can get those into your room prior to your arrival. And then we've been working with our marketing folks to create welcome kits for all of our students who move onto campus. And those welcome kits will include at least 2 face coverings and some hand sanitizer, and there may be some other goodies within those kits for you upon your arrival. You're welcome, of course, to bring your own face covering, and we ask you to do that because not all face coverings fit all faces. So make sure that you are well prepared and taken care of yourself, but we will provide those items for you as well. So that's the extent of the housing presentation, and I'll hand it back to Dr. Dukes.
Thank you, Tina. Now, next up is Megan with orientation. Megan Haberman.
Gary was just so excited. All right, so my name is Megan Haberman. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm here to talk to you about fall orientation for returning students. This is taking the place of New Student Week, and it's an extended orientation that we are offering that's actually already started. All right, I'm ready for the next slide. So orientation launched on August 17th, and we're actually in week 2. That was week 0, kind of a launch week. And so we're just in week 2. So if you haven't logged in yet, you've got lots of time. You'll definitely get connected. All the content is being hosted on a site called WOU Network. So you've probably received this invitation to your admission email. You might have gotten it back in June or might have gotten it more recently. And so it's a link. You can sign up with any email that you want to get access to the information. It's designed to engage students with a mix of on-demand and live content. So each week we have live virtual events as well as on your own schedule events, which are posts about like getting a job or how to take the writing placement exam, how to sign up for the esports tournament, things like that. So you can do a lot of it on your own time. A lot of our live virtual events are being recorded for future playback. So if you're working or have other obligations right now, don't worry, you'll still be able to get pretty much all of the information. Each student has been invited to an orientation group with your Plus Team orientation leader, and that's to help build community. Each week they have virtual meetings and they put discussion board icebreakers up so you can start to get to know other WOU students and ask kind of your questions to students from their point of view. So I really hope you enjoy that. If you have any questions about how this works or you don't think you have a login or you don't see a group invitation for an orientation group, you can just email me at habermam@wou.edu or plusteam@wou.edu, and one of us on the orientation planning team will get you settled. All right, next slide. So coming up this week, we have trivia tomorrow night. It's a SpongeBob SquarePants theme, so I know nothing about that, so please come and make it fun. They don't want me there. It'll be tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We also have Dating in a Virtual World with Taylor Nolan from The Bachelor. And if you're a big Bachelor fan, her recap, Where's She At Now, just actually aired last night. And so she'll be there to answer all your questions about dating online and in real life. And that is Thursday at 7 o'clock. Next week, we have our mandatory diversity session, Don't Be a Karen, Guide to Combating Microaggressions. And that'll be on-demand viewing. That'll go live on Monday. And we also have our 10-second talent introductions. So you can connect with Plus Team on social media to get more details about that. And there'll be a post coming up in WOU Network very soon to let you know more about that. If you're a returning student and you're interested in any of our events or interested in learning more, you can just email Plus Team and we'll try to get you information. Particularly if you want to go to the event with Taylor Nolan, we'll just email you the Zoom link if you're a returning student. All right, next slide, please. So we will have a few in-person events. They're going to be after everyone's moved in, so there's no reason to come to campus beforehand. The New Student Sunrise is a tradition where most years we're able to go to the stadium and watch the sunrise as one big class. This year we're going to be doing it spread across campus on several different fields so that we can ensure people's safety. And we'll also be doing it on Facebook Live and Instagram Live for folks that might not be on campus. So don't worry, you can still wake up at literally the crack of dawn and join us. Convocation will be that Sunday as well at 2 o'clock. It's going to be a live broadcast, and there'll be a welcome from President Rex Fuller and hot new information, a welcome from ASU President NJ Johnson. And then we'll also have our keynote speech from Monty Washington to kind of motivate you for going into this school year. We're also going to have a drive-in movie on Friday, October 2nd, and we're going to be able to have drive-ins, or you could bring a blanket and kind of sit outside, and we're going to have it set up so that you can enjoy this outside event safely with your new classmates. All right, next slide. This is the best way to get a hold of us, is you can email us at plusteam@wou.edu or follow us on Instagram for all of our updates, and you can kind of keep up everything that you might need. And I believe you need me to stop talking so we can get to questions. So I will send it back to Gary and NJ.
Thank you, Megan. So yes, we've now presented a lot of information to you, and this is now your opportunity to ask questions of us. So please see the email on the screen, and if you have questions, email those in. And NJ, how are we doing on questions?
Thank you, Dr. Dukes. We have a ton of them. So the first one asks, what is our step-by-step plan if there is a large outbreak on campus? And they asked for a follow-up. Will we be sending residential students back home if something like this happens?
Who wants to field that? Is that Beth?
I can certainly start, and then if somebody wants to add their part as well. So once we become aware of a positive case, several things happen just about simultaneously. We contact Polk County. We start the contact tracing so that then people who have been in contact with that student are notified. We notify administration. So all the notifications, and then we quarantine that student and help take care of their needs while they're quarantined, and give them treatment, appropriate treatment for that. And it seems like there was a follow-up question. Are we making all the students return home? I don't know the answer to that part.
This is President Fuller. Maybe I can add to that. I think once we do those steps, we'll be following health guidelines, and we'll have to make the decision on a case-by-case basis. You may have read in the paper today that state down in California had an outbreak, and they have indeed sent students home. So I think, like we've learned from all the universities that have opened up on the semester system ahead of us, it'll depend upon the nature of the outbreak, the severity of the outbreak, the degree to which we are able to have confidence that we can move ahead with a degree of safety. And so, I wish there were a hard and fast rule, but I think the evidence of opening up is that we will follow the best guidance we can get at the time. And make a decision that's in the best interest of our students, faculty, and staff.
All right, thank you. The next question, I believe, would go to Tina. What campus dining options will be available, and what will those look like?
Great question. Our dining hall will be open, and they've already designed the layout of the dining hall to accommodate for physical distancing as students come in and order from the different concepts that are in the dining hall. But new this year is an online ordering system where students can order their meals in advance, and there will be a line as students come into the dining hall that directs them specifically to the online ordering pickup area. Or if a student is coming to select a meal, they haven't ordered online, but they want to purchase a meal that's being prepared in the dining hall, they can go in a different line and go in that direction. So I would say that our menu hasn't changed a ton. There might be a few changes or limitations to some of our offerings, but the idea is to offer a full menu to our students and make it available either as inside dining, takeout, or online ordering for takeout.
All right, thank you. The next question we have is what campus resources will be available after we switch to completely online November 25th?
I'll go ahead and try to field that. I mean, I'm not sure what specific resources they're asking for, but generally all of our resources are going to be available. They're available now and they will continue to be available virtually. I know within the Division of Student Affairs, we're at least trying to have offices open on campus once students come back, so that students would have an opportunity to come into an office, maybe not be able to meet immediately with someone, but be able to plan an appointment that way. So, but in terms of general services, we plan to have all of our services available.
This is President Fuller again. Provost Winningham had to jump onto another conference call related to some of the work we're talking about. But I think through the presentation, you saw that there'll be computer labs available selectively around campus. The library has plans to open up a computer lab. I think Patrick talked about a computer lab in the Warner Center, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the other piece will be that much of our face-to-face instruction will be dedicated to the science labs as well as the creative arts. The main thing is, as Tina pointed out, that the students being on campus will have access to our broadband and Wi-Fi, which will give them great access in the virtual environment as well.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Next question we have, what will the enforcement of our campus safety guidelines look like, and will there be any punishment for people who do not obey the safety guidelines?
I think I'll field that since that's part of my job. Yeah, so I think this is going to take some getting used to, right? I mean, I do think that we've had 6-7 months of managing our own safety in our own homes and wearing, face coverings and practicing good hygiene and managing the physical distancing, and our expectation will be that continues here on campus. And so if students are not following those guidelines, then there will be conversations with those students that could result, if a student is just unwilling to practice safety protocols, this is about our community and about keeping our community safe. And so if someone doesn't want to follow those guidelines or protocols, then perhaps being in community on campus is not the best place for them to be. And so it's likely that we'll have students leave if they cannot follow the guidance that we've been given, that we're giving our students to follow to maintain a safe community.
Thank you for that. The only one thing that I would add to that answer is that we have a mechanism right now for reporting students who are not following our safety guidelines, and that goes to the public safety office on campus, which will still be operating 24/7. Next question we have is, what impact will degree requirements, what will be had on degree requirements if in-person courses are not able to be taken in someone's senior year?
I don't know if Nikki's still on the line. Do you want to try to field that?
Yeah, the provost on the conference call. Did you have that going? Someone else, Gary?
I didn't know if Nikki was still on the line or if that's a question she could field or.
Well, Nikki, please go ahead.
Yeah, so similar to what happened in the spring, as we worked with students that had to go remote in their senior year, they worked directly with their departments to come up with solutions and situations that were options in that time. And so I would say if you are a senior and you're looking to finish requirements and you need in-person components, they really are trying to prioritize classes that need in-person components like biology labs and things like that to still remain in person with the requirements you need. But if there are classes that you are needing for graduation to make sure you're continuing with your degree requirements in the remote setting so that that doesn't throw you off track for graduation. And if you have any concerns or options about how you can best fulfill your degree requirements, please connect with your advisor to see what your options will be, because we understand that there are some situations, and we learned this in the spring, that we are having to adapt and change based on the current scenario. So the best option is to utilize the options that we have now, continue moving forward with your degree, making use of the supports to be successful in the online environment, and then working with your advisor if you have scenarios that are not allowing you to continue towards your degree, to figure out the best path and options you might have within that degree.
All right, thank you both for weighing in on that. Next question is another housing question for Tina. Will first-year students still be required to live on campus if they are not taking in-person courses?
So we have been allowing students who are studying fully online to, they can fill out a petition, a housing petition, and request a waiver of the live-in requirement, so long as they're living at home. If they're studying fully online and want to rent an apartment in Monmouth, we're asking that they live on campus in the residence halls.
President Fuller, I believe this next question would go to you. Would you talk a little bit about how the decision was made and who was involved in it to go to a mostly online model?
Sure. Thanks for the question, NJ. As I understand it, it's how did we get to the decision that we announced in the last few weeks, or I guess it was last week. I mentioned there was a large task force that met virtually every week for a good part of May and June. A key piece of that was we also added to that our own epidemiologists who are engaged in contact tracing. We tracked all of the data related to local outbreaks by state, I guess, rules. The governor has issued regions of Region 2. So we are connected to both Marion County to the east and Lincoln County to the west, as well as Yamhill to the north and Benton to the south. I may be missing a county in Region 2. But Polk County initially had very low rates. That was due to our dispersed population and rural nature. We still have fairly low rates. However, we are seeing that those rates among 20 to 29-year-olds statewide and nationwide have spiked considerably. So all of those factors led to an abundance of caution around our ability to see the large numbers return to campus, which is why we have this modified plan so that we can house a good number of students, but we need to be mindful that we're not able to operate normally. And I think the evidence is clear when you read the national media on universities and the semester system, as I mentioned earlier, which have opened, as normal in some cases, where they've had to take a back step and change things and close for 2 weeks at a time. In some cases, as I mentioned, Chico State earlier today announced they're sending students home. So what I would say is it's a very robust group, a lot of smart people around the table, and in the indicators just didn't warrant our preferred plan, which was to have a normal fall. Everyone on this call prefers that. We love seeing students on campus, but we have an overarching obligation to students themselves and our faculty and staff in our community to not become a place where COVID outbreaks are unmanageable. So I would say all of those things led to the final decision that was announced in the last few days.
All right, thank you, President Fuller. This will be another housing question for Tina. Is the Wi-Fi in the residence halls adequate for the amount of people that will be doing distance learning, or do we have to rent a hotspot from the library?
There should be no reason why you need to check out a hotspot from the library. And actually, the density in our residence halls is less than it would normally be by about a third. So each community is about 2/3 of what it normally would be under normal circumstances. So we are confident in our Wi-Fi capabilities in the residence halls.
Thank you. The next question, I believe, would go to Beth. How can students access personal protective equipment on campus?
So I'm interested in what personal protective equipment they're talking about specifically. If they're wanting masks, for instance, that would be something that they can get from various places on campus. The University Center, public safety, student health and counseling. So we'll have those things accessible. If there's, that's the most immediate thing I can think of as far as protective equipment. My mind goes to gowns and all the medical gear that I don't think that that's what they're talking about. So if there's something a student needs to be safe and to feel safe on campus, then we'll address those needs for sure.
Thank you. And there's also going to be 150 hand sanitizer stations on campus. All right. The next question will go to President Fuller. If you could say what enrollment looks like for fall 2020 and what the university is doing to sustain the budget in these times.
Thank you for the question. It's this time of year where we're engaged in looking at registrations and housing reservations and testing what was referred to as the period between intent and actual enrollment. And so it's been, I think, exacerbated by COVID-19. So we track weekly the enrollment numbers. We had planned for about 2% down when we built the budget back in March and April. And right now we're tracking a bit more than that, about 6 or 7% down. That's typical of all the universities in Oregon. What we're doing is things like this, where we're trying to reach out to students and families and let them know what we're doing to ensure that they understand that we've taken their safety as a first and foremost serious matter. We're trying to make sure that our courses are delivered with a high level of quality and access. And we're also reaching out and trying to encourage students who are continuing to enroll. So I've personally written to many students over the summer, asking them to reach out to their advisors, people like Nikki, as well as financial aid. And we continue to do yield activities to ensure that our students have the opportunity to make a decision to either come or stay off a year. Some students are taking a gap year. I'm an economist. I don't think a gap year is a economically sound decision, especially given the safety protocols we put in place. So we're doing what we can to encourage students to make the decisions best for them. Having said that, there are some students who may be at risk, and those students have a different set of decision factors than a student who would not be at risk due to their own personal circumstances. But right now, we're tracking about 6% down. We're hoping to close that gap as we open on September 28th.
Thank you, President Fuller. The next question is with the high amount of wait time at the Student Health and Counseling Center, what other campus mental health support systems should students look to?
So a couple of things with that. High wait time, it depends on what they consider high wait time. We've been able to get people in pretty quickly. Spring term, there was no more than a week's wait, I believe, for medical or for counseling. Definitely no more than 2 weeks. But with that said, anytime a student wants to look at other services, there's Polk County Mental Health. That's local, but also we look at their insurance providers and what services would be available to them effectively and efficiently. So we work and do consultations with students on referral sources as well.
All right, thank you, Beth. The next question is, why is there a course fee for online courses, and what does this go towards?
Rex, do you want to?
Anna's on the call. I wonder if she can take the first cut at that, and then Gary or you or I can follow up.
Sure. So course fee is been for online courses been implemented first time this year. It's a new fee. However, it has not increased the total cost of education online. So the total cost of online tuition used to be $53 higher than face-to-face tuition. So this year is the first year when we brought tuition to the same amount across the modalities. And that $53 difference is now designated as online fee. Why was it done, and what the course fee, online fee goes towards? Well, it was done for convenience, for student convenience, to be able to move from across the modalities without impact on their finances. The tuition is the same. Also, it allows us to designate this fund specifically for improving our learning management system, LMS, developing, we now in transition to Canvas from Moodle. Canvas is a more advanced method of learning management system. We hear lots of compliments from it from faculty. We're now in a pilot stage on that. And it also allows us to hire additional instructional designers to help our faculty to develop very modern and up-to-date classes for the online learning.
Thank you, Dr. Kerman. The next question is another housing one for Tina. The question is, are students who are living on campus able to visit their families during spring break? If so, isn't that counterproductive to making sure that students don't infect their families and infect those when they come back to campus?
We want students to practice good social distancing, good hygiene. We won't prevent students from leaving campus. It's just not even possible or practical. But before students return from a break, we'll want them to go through a series of the same things we're having them do when they arrive to campus. So there'll be some protocols in place for managing that, and students will need to make the best decision for themselves and their families as they think about moving from one location to another and what that means. And a lot of this is about, again, practicing good hygiene, using face coverings, and practicing physical distancing, as we do in our daily lives right now.
Thank you. Next question is asks, what would be the decision timeline for an announcement on the winter term course recovery?
Could you repeat that question? I did not hear it.
Yeah, of course. What is the decision timeline for when you would hear an announcement on winter course delivery?
This is President Fuller. I think that once we get fall launched, we'll be monitoring on a regular basis. My guess is the group that I alluded to earlier will continue to meet at least monthly. And we have registration that begins, I want to say, Nikki can correct me, but I want to say in November, if I'm not mistaken. So we would certainly be wanting to make a decision in advance of registration. In tying the two decisions together so that students and families would have all the information they need as they consider registration for the winter term. And I'll defer to Nikki on whether I've got the right zone of interest identified by saying it's probably the month of November.
That is correct. Registration for winter term does take place in November with some lead up time, and also similar to decisions that were made about classes for fall term, making decisions based on the best information we have at the time. And so numbers are changing, going and that's something that's being reviewed regularly to determine what's going to be best case. But definitely, we would want to have course modalities, how their classes are going to be taught, set up and registration as much as possible to be accurate and correct, so that students are making informed decisions when they register for classes to know what they're expecting for winter term.
All right, thank you, everyone. The next question has to do with testing. Asks, can off-campus students, staff, and faculty utilize the Student Health and Counseling Center for testing?
So our testing is for students only, so not for faculty and staff. And it's for any student who qualifies for services, who's paid the health fee, and who exhibits symptoms, or has been exposed to a positive person.
Thank you. The next question, I know we don't have Provost Winningham on the call, but if anyone knows this, when professors are expected to send out syllabi so that students have time to order textbooks? And then a sub-question, how will the bookstore operate during fall term?
Nikki, do you know if there's a standard deadline for course syllabi? Throughout my career and experience, they're certainly available the week classes start, but I don't know that there's a deadline that precedes September 28th. I would encourage students to go online and look for the course modules, either on Moodle or Canvas. Oftentimes when I was teaching, I would load that before the term began so that books could be ordered as well. The bookstore would know what books are needed for each course. But I would also ask Dr. Dukes to talk about the operations of the bookstore. And Nikki, if you have any more detail, please weigh in.
Yeah, so I just had a couple of things I wanted to add. You can go on to the Wolf Store website right now to look up a course by subject and course number to see what the required books are. And from that site, you can print your book list if you just want it to have access, or you can actually order online. And so I'll pass, Wolf Store operations onto someone in that area, but you do not have to wait for a course syllabi or for your online modules to find out what course textbooks are required. Many of our instructors use low cost, no cost, open educational resources, and so hopefully that will help with mitigating some of the cost of the textbooks. As far as when faculty start putting up their syllabi, we do encourage students during the fall orientation time and the week leading up to be logging into the portal, checking their Moodle and Canvas. Instructors return to campus full time, usually around September 15th, and often begin communicating with students in the week leading up to what you can expect out of your class. And we are asking that communication to come out as soon as it's possible based on what expectations you can have. So really the week leading up and the week of the first week of the term, be watching your WOU email for those notifications, be logging into your learning management systems for that, but you do not have to wait until then to find out what books you need.
Patrick, do you want to give a little bit of information on the Wolf Store?
Sure. The Wolf Store is going to be open for in-person operation from Monday through Friday. It's currently open now, but during the term, it'll be open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so they'll be able to help you in person. They also do have a website, and so you can also visit their website, like Nikki said, and check out what textbooks professors are going to be utilizing, and you can order those online. There is a technical issue with the processing of credit card payments on the bookstore website at this point, but you can still make your order, and then the Wolf Store will just be in contact with you personally to finish the transaction. So make sure that you're aware of that. They will get back to you as soon as possible so they complete that transaction for you. And if you need those items mailed to you, they can mail those items, or if you're going to be on site, they can hold them and you can pick them up from the bookstore.
All right, thank you everyone who weighed in on that question. or Canvas.
NJ, you cut off, at least for our studio, you cut off quite a bit there. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Will professors be offering courses on Moodle or Canvas? Was that more clear?
Yeah, I heard the question.
Okay.
So I can weigh in on that one as academic affairs. So it'll be one or the other. We are in a transition period of switching off of Moodle into Canvas, and so not all of our courses have transitioned over yet. Your instructor will be connecting with you before the class starts to let you know if you are in Canvas. So default would be to log into Moodle. That's what's in the WOU portal. And if you are in one of the classes that's in the transition over to Canvas, your instructor will contact you and let you know how to access that class. And we will see more of our classes transitioning over to Canvas throughout the upcoming year. And we have an academic innovation team that has resources and supports on their websites for students for how to access the different learning module systems and how to use them, and support for that through the Academic Innovation Office, so we can help students in either learning management system while we make the transition over to Canvas fully by next year.
Thank you, Nikki. This next question would be for Beth. Student asked, can you please go into more detail about the 24 hours before health screening? What means are required? What is the cost? How long will it take? And how early can it be done?
So the 24-hour screening, are they referring to the 24 hours prior to coming to campus? Is that what it sounds like?
I potentially.
And that's okay. So I'll just kind of answer broadly. So any screening, right, would measure the same things. It would be, are they running a fever? Or they have a cough, a sore throat, diarrhea, the symptoms that are associated with possible COVID symptoms. Those are the things that are going to be on any screening that we do. And the items that we do choose to screen against do come from CDC guidelines and OHA guidelines and things like that. So it just be consistent with kind of what's out there as far as what symptomology we're looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next question would be a Rob question, so someone else can pick it up. But because 95% of the classes will be held online, will attendance be taken? And will online students occupied throughout the day with lectures and coursework? What will be in place for students who are occupied throughout the day with lectures and coursework to help with their mental and physical health, as well as prevent large social gatherings outside of campus, as well as other behavior?
So I felt like that was a multi-pronged question, but the beginning of it talking about will attendance be required for online classes and what the structure will look like throughout the day. Attendance and whether that's part of the grade requirement is determined by the faculty member and how they grade the course. So that would be something that would be communicated in the course syllabi at the beginning of the class about whether or not the synchronous online would be mandatory. With that being said, because of the time that we've had to develop coursework for this fall, faculty have been making pretty intentional choices about whether they feel it is best in their class to have a synchronous learning time, whether that was in person or online, or whether they were having it asynchronous, which is no scheduled meeting times. The coursework is done at the pace of the student. So if there is a meeting time listed in the schedule when you registered, you can plan that you will need to be available and attending those times, even if you're meeting remotely, because the instructor picked that intentionally for meeting the learning objectives of the course. Because of those scheduled times, you shouldn't have any classes overlapping. So whenever you're picking out your schedule, you can pick a schedule that's going to work best for you to give you breaks and manage the different needs of that. So if you get brain overload from sitting in front of a computer all day, every day, balancing out classes to stagger Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday can be part of that decision making with the schedule as it is available. And I know there were some other questions about mental health and large gatherings, so I'll turn it over if anyone else wants to answer those, but that's attendance may be mandatory for the online classes, but that will be up to the instructor to determine based on how they grade and set up their course.
And this is Rex Fuller, the president. And additionally, Dr. Winnie talked about attendance being required in the face-to-face labs, for example, that we have on campus. So in addition to what Nikki has said, where it is going to be driven by the academic requirements of each faculty member, for face-to-face, we do expect attendance to be taken, and that's to help us with contact tracing, should we have a positive case, as much as anything else. But face-to-face, I think the answer is yes. And then for additional areas related to overall development in mental health and socialization, I'll defer to others on the call.
Just to get a plug in around the mental health aspect, so part of our counseling services do include crisis services. So we always have crisis services available for any student who is struggling and needs to speak to someone then.
Did we hit everything, NJ?
Yeah, I believe so. There are, here it comes. Just for students who are still watching right now, we are almost out of questions. So if you have something that you wanted to ask but might have been worried that we...
So we've lost NJ's audio. So I think at this point, we're kind of work on wrapping up at this point. If you have questions, I would encourage you to continue to send those to the address we had listed. We'll continue to compile those and try to answer those questions and have those answers available online. So I do appreciate everybody taking the time to tune in today and be a part of our presentation. I want to thank everyone who also gave a part of the presentation today and put the time in to do that. Thank you, President Fuller. Thank you, President NJ Johnson. So at this point, I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, if you have other questions, please continue to feel free to send those to the address we had listed, and we will try to answer those as we can. So again, thank you for tuning in today, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the fall.